Hi, I'm here with Alex, and we're going to talk a little bit about Standing Rock. So, do you want to tell me a little bit about your experiences? Oh, by the way, I should say that we're in Washington, D.C. Everyone's come together for some of the direct actions here, and tell us a little bit about your time at Standing Rock.
Where would you like me to start?
It's up to you.
All right. Okay. The first time that I went to Standing Rock, I went with a caravan. We attempted to organize a national caravan effort heading out to Standing Rock. We were successful in getting a few caravans out, not necessarily in the way we intended. Um, and my co-lead in the caravan had very specific ideas on how we should be, like go into camp to help, but then retreat into our camp to feed ourselves and whatnot, because otherwise we would be a burden. And we were there for November 20th for the water cannon day, as we call it. And
So, what alerted you to the water cannons and what was going down on the backwater bridge that night?
we were back in our camp. We were preparing a meal, and there was there was yelling. Go to the bridge. There was a lot of confusion, as would be in instances where you're far back in camp or you're far back in an area somewhere, and there's yelling and screaming, and you're like, what's going on? So our group more or less dispersed, and everyone kind of went their own way and heading out there. I had made a promise not to go to the front line, which I didn't keep. I went to the medic area to get more information, and from there, a gentleman ran back from the front lines and asked for people to help haul water up to the front line. Hauling water is not frontline stuff. Okay, I can do that and not break my promise. And instead of hauling water, I noticed that there were goggles. So I asked to grab those, grabbed a bunch, filled up an entire bag, and grabbed earplugs, and followed him to the medic tent that was on this end of the road, where this was the bridge that we were attempting to protect. So there's this mass of people in front of the bridge, and then there's a medic tent, and then there's the entrance into the camp after that. So I brought the stuff there, and from there I started handing stuff out towards the back, still staying away from the front line. But then I realized that goggles were being handed out in the back. People who are in the back largely are not planning to go to the front line. The goggles aren't needed in the back. So I started gathering them back up and running to the front line with them to hand out, because brothers and sisters of ours were being maced, being tear gassed. We're being hit with rubber bullets. We're being sprayed endlessly with a water cannon at sub-zero temperatures. And sorry, I said the dapple cough from then until now. It's ridiculous. And it never got easier walking through that site. I wish I had captured it. Every single time that I went back to the medic tent to refill my bag of goggles, of earplugs, and a few water bottles to head back through, every single time heading back, I would be able to register the cries of, medic, medic, we need a medic, hypothermia. And it didn't strike me then that it was because of my layers, because I've had experience in Arctic weather that I wasn't getting that exposure. But it was everywhere, because many of us were not well prepared for the weather. Many people were wearing cotton, and cotton soaks up the water, soaks it up, keeps it there, and it stays really, really cold, and it actually puts you even more at risk for hypothermia. And many of us were wearing denim. Many of us were wearing cotton hoodies and cotton socks, and that made it all that much more a problem. And every single time after I was done getting stuff together to go back to the front, I would be going through that same crowd of all our brothers and sisters who were up against the water cannon and the tear gas coming at us, and it was I could not go through that any single time without tears just welling up and stinging my eyes every single time, and it didn't get any easier. And at the front line, we had brothers and sisters up against the very front, and then we had the water cannon just spraying endlessly. It never stopped for endless hours. It just kept on going. Like, water looks so innocent. Water looks so benign. How can water possibly hurt someone? And they were very smart in using that, because no one would register that offhand as something that would put someone at risk of health, of danger. And that's exactly what they were after, though. And so many people ended up with hypothermia that night. That's why the warming tent in Ochedi was created, was to prepare for another mass attack just in case it happened. And I did that, ran frontline defense support for 4.5 hours, where I was running goggles and earplugs to the front line, the very front, and pulling soaked comforters and emergency blankets away from the front, because the soaked comforters, again, freezing cold, they would turn to ice, or they would turn icy, and that would create this blockage that would be a trip hazard in the event there was any kind of chaos. The emergency blankets were slippery, and if that's on the ground, another trip hazard. And they were using rubber bullets against us, and our defense against it, Rubbermaid lids. We were using Rubbermaid lids. That was the way that we were defending ourselves against this attack. It was absolutely ridiculous. And they were breaking because of all the hits. And I would be picking them up as people dropped them and ran back, and giving them to brothers and sisters to hold. And those were basically the things that I did as support. And I guess they didn't like that too much, because after the hours I did it, there was at one point I'd run out of goggles and had some earplugs, and I stood still for a second to figure out whether I wanted to finish the earplugs or go back for more goggles. And that's when I was hit on my right shin bone, dead center. Good shot, whoever shot me. There was no one beside me on the side. There was no one behind me. And there was this huge wall of tall, big brothers next to me, but they decided to go for that. So clearly they were aiming for me. And it took a moment for it to register. Just this thwomp, like, I think I got hit. I just walked backwards slowly and went over to the side, sat down. Like, sooner or later someone's gonna notice me and someone's gonna help me, because that's how we were. We helped each other, and we still do. We are a unit, we are a family, we're protecting each other, we are protecting that which we care about, that which we value, the earth, the water, and the collective. And within minutes, 2 brothers came over. Sister, are you okay? Are you hurt? Are you hit? And I couldn't even talk. I was just like, And I pointed, and each of the 2 brothers took my arms and lifted me up slightly and started hauling me back. And one got hit. This brother got hit in the back for hauling me back. That's how dirty they were playing. And they brought me back to again, here's the bridge, here's the medic tent. They brought me all the way back here, and it wasn't until I got here and stood still and looked down. My outfit was pure black, top to bottom, just because that's what I happened to come out with. I'm not black bloc or anything like that, just gonna put that out there. But it's then that I looked down, and my clothes were more white than black. because it had soaked up with so much water and turned to sheets, basically, of ice. I was covered in ice. And all around me, again, were cases of hypothermia. At that point, the tent, that medical tent, people had started hauling clothing, the donations, thank you everyone out there so much for the donations that you've brought in. It helped everyone so much, you have no idea. All the donations that earlier that day I was part of sorting because I was directing the donation area. All the warmest coats that we had, all the warmest pants and socks and underlayers were all brought up in huge tubs and cardboard boxes and just all around me. And people were shedding off their soaked, especially cotton layers and changing into them. And that helped tremendously. And again, emergency blankets and whatnot to use as shields. And at that point, I was brought back to the medic area inside camp. And I didn't realize exactly how bad hypothermia could be until I was on the van heading into the camp. And I was very grateful for that van because I truly could not even take a step. It hurt so badly that when I was put into the van, I basically toppled into the van because I couldn't brace myself. And after I got in, there was a girl, at the very last minute, there was a girl who was brought in who had hypothermia, and she was shaking, shivering, couldn't say a word. She was so caught up in the cold. And it was very powerful to see that effect on someone up close. Because you hear hypothermia, you don't process the effect of it until you actually see it in front of you.
What do you say to someone like that? To emotionally warm them up, to get them out of that state?
We were telling her to breathe and that it was okay, and we were close to her. We were physically staying very close to her to give her our body warmth, and holding her hand, comfort, and telling her to breathe. I'm not of a medic background, and I apologize. At the time I was in this was throbbing, so if there was anything else being said in that moment, I was not aware of it at all. I couldn't be. After going to the medic area, we all stripped down to decontaminate. We all put on different clothes, the donated clothes that were also in the medic area as they were up in the tent on the bridge to decontaminate because of the tear gassing, the macing, and whatnot. And after my wound was evaluated, I was asked to go to the casino/hotel to take a shower and to further decontaminate. I had, one second. I have this backpack with me. I carry it virtually everywhere I travel. It's a nylon pack, and one reason why I love carrying it everywhere, besides the fact that it's very lightweight, is it's easy dry. And since it had been dropped on the ground and so on and so forth, a lot on that bridge. After I got to the hotel, when I was in the bathroom, I decided to run it under the sink to wash it. I was holding it in this hand. And I literally just did this under the sink with this hand. And instantly this hand was covered in a black slick. And I thought it was very curious, and I'm like, well, it's already there, fuck it, I'm just gonna keep washing it. So I washed it, ran it under, so I really shouldn't have done that. I should have kept it to have it tested. But this hand became covered in a black slick. Like, okay, fine. At that point, I hadn't registered it. I thought it was just dirt. Then I went to take the shower. My boots were not waterproof. They were wool, so they kept me they were sheepskin They kept me very warm. They were not waterproof. The soles of my feet were covered in black, the same black that was on this hand. Here's a strange thing. 3 days later, the black that was on here, that were in the veins, that had gotten stuck in the veins and all along the crevices, especially the crevices, this was completely black after the shower and after washing that. 3 days later, it was still there.
What do you think that was?
There have been many theories passed around, and a lot of people are looking into testing, or have been looking into testing the soil. I have not followed up on leads to see if anyone has had any concrete findings. The pair of boots that I was wearing that night, I still have. I'd love to get that tested, because given that that stuck to my skin to that degree, I would imagine it's not gonna let go of fabric that easily. So there's that.
So, one of the questions I've asked a couple of people before is, what would you say to Morton County sheriffs if, just one-on-one, sitting down, eye-to-eye with them?
Now, are you talking about the sheriff, or are you talking about their employees, the officers? What are you talking about?
And I should just say those people out on the front line. I mean, if, rather than them, with their guns, or if you could imagine talking to any of those people that were out there doing that stuff on the other side of the razor wire.
I have two ways of answering that. My heart is so heavy from every single time my voice is gone from, I haven't heard my actual voice in a month from the dapple cough. It's gone pretty bad. But my heart has gotten so heavy from, I call this a fight of humanity. Ever since November 20th, I have called it exactly that, because I look at November 20th and I'm like, the atrocities involved in that day, that warfare, that one-sided warfare, how can a person be okay with that, let alone be on the side that is causing it, that is allowing it to happen, that is a hand in it, that is a body in it? How? And coming from that perspective, coming from that heartache, I don't really have words to say. Then there's a side of me that approaches it with hope and with the love and the community that is largely echoed in the community I call home now, Standing Rock, the community of peace and prayer. And I would want a dialogue. I would want to facilitate understanding and hope to have them see that this is entirely connected. The water, the fight of humanity, everything, and that they are very much just as affected by the pipeline as anyone else. That they will be drinking this water, and their children will be drinking this water, their children's children, that this water feeds our fish, or is the environment our fish lives in, is the water that nourishes our plants, is the water that makes up our bodies, is the water that is to cleanse us. It's part of everything, it's part of everyone, and they are not exempt from it at all. I would like for there to be that understanding, and more than that, I would like to be understanding of, how do I phrase this? There is no way of me even processing it being okay to treat another human being in this way, let alone peaceful protectors of a natural resource who quite literally are standing there in prayer and in song and in silence. That's literally what they were doing. I don't know how to process that.
Before we turned the camera on, you likened what was happening as warfare.
It is. It's still happening. Martin Luther King Day, right after I left Standing Rock to come to DC, it happened again. And this time, a woman was hit on a by a police snowmobile. And 2 days after that, once again, the camps were attacked.
For a second, I'm going to take the position of devil's advocate. Those people that say that, well, no, it's just rubber bullets. It's not warfare. Explain to me, as if I'm one of those people.
Explain to me how it is ever okay to use terror as a tactic. Explain to me how it is ever okay to have people fearful, fighting for the security of their lives, of their safety in their own homes, on their own land. And this, a lot of people might have the question of, isn't this U.S. land? I'm sorry, that is treaty land. That is land that has always been treaty land. And that is why we are occupying that land. Ocheti specifically. Rosebud Camp, I know that talking about the camps might be confusing for a lot of people, because until I went there, I didn't know the lay of the land either. Rosebud and Sacred Stone are on native land. That is outlined as native land. But the land that Ocheti is on was outlined as treaty land. And then, well, you know, we decided to kind of take it over. And politics aside, please tell me when it should be okay to use terror as a tactic on a human being, let alone a human being that is peacefully trying to protect something. We're supposed to be creating dialogue. We're supposed to be working together and understanding each other. And maybe you might process that as a listener, as a viewer right now. You might be processing that as overly idealistic, optimistic. I don't. I consider myself a realist. And realistically, unless we start protecting our resources, I'm sorry I'm saying this on camera, we're fucked. I mean, we're already well on our way there. It's not about a population. It's not about politics. To me personally, I very much support my Native brothers and sisters, and I love them, and I completely agree with their stance on this is treaty land and other such matters. At the end of the day, beyond all of that, this is a human issue, period. Both human rights issue and resources that we all need and we all are using and will affect literally every single person. Unless you happen to be a 1% billionaire who will be buying your own water filtration systems and never touch public water ever. Then, okay, maybe it doesn't apply to you. And you're the people who we're trying to address to begin with anyway.
Okay, that's great. I want to say thank you so much, but is there any last thing you want to say about your experience there?
Currently, the camps are in a state of flux because there are a lot of... I realize that I'm on live camera, and I realize that saying certain things may be... It's easy to misconstrue things. I'm trying to be as transparent and as clear as possible. There are elders asking people to leave. There are elders asking people to stay. Until I return, I don't know what the story is. But in the meantime, as has been the case over the past months, a lot of rumors will be flying around, a lot of hearsay. Just keep an open mind with whatever it is you're hearing. And if you hear about violence specifically, how do I put this? Okay, first, we're definitely moving. Like there's no doubt about that. The camps are in this state of cleanup, and they are pushing for a move. Um, the elders who want to stay are pushing for a move. There are elders who want us to leave. We need to figure out what is going on. That is what we will be coming back to. Um, there are instances of attacks coming. There are instances of attacks that we've gone through, and there are rumors of attacks impending. Um, whatever it is you hear, just don't take it at face value, is what I meant to say. Like, always double check. That's always been my advice to everybody, especially when we are dealing with an area where cell and internet access has notoriously been cut left and right at every instance possible. They really don't want us to have communication with the outside world because, well, if you look at the videos from November 20th alone, that should tell you why they don't want anyone to see anything. That alone, let alone every other instance that you can think of, that you can look up. They don't want people to know. And that's all the more reason we need to make sure that everything that we are getting is actually correct. Because a lot of times there will be information getting out there to confuse people, to cause conflict, so on and so forth. And it has been an issue time and time again. And it's actually so bad that they have physically cut our internet lines, our internet cords. Consistently, we've had that being a problem time and time again. So that's, if you were wondering why you rarely get updates from camp or such, it's that. Yeah.
The situation there is messed up for sure.
In many ways. And it's my experience, it's my personal perspective that the more a power is attempting to keep something silent, the more it needs to be known.
And that's why we're doing it.
And thank you, Rod, for doing it.
Okay, thank you so much for giving me your time. Mini Machoni.
Anyway, Water's life.